Growing number of South Africans with blocked IDs threatening to shut down home affairs in Tshwane today. They say their lives are in limbo. They're unable to work, study, access healthcare, or even open a bank account. Now, this comes despite a High Court ruling back in 2022 declaring the blocking of IDs without due process unlawful. Nearly a year later, the department has failed to act decisively. Let's bring in Liesl Muller. She's a senior attorney at the Centre for Child Law. Liesl, it's great to talk to you. Thanks very much for joining us. What an incredibly important story, and I'm sure you will know better than most. I mean, we can see the pain etched on the faces of the people gathered there in Tshwane, what it means effectively to be stateless, to not belong anywhere, at least not according to the population register, people being labelled as non-existent.
Yes, it's honestly heartbreaking. And the Centre for Child Law in this particular case was representing the Children's Institute to bring to the court's attention the children of these people. But I have myself represented many of these individuals in the last 10 years, and it's truly, truly heartbreaking, the effects on their lives.
Yeah. I mean, we've described the fact that obviously without an ID, you can't work. Many people have lost their jobs. You can't study, access healthcare. You can't even open a bank account. Tell us more about the impact on the people who are affected by this blocking of IDs, how their children are directly impacted. I know there's been one case where a single mother was unable to claim child support for many years.
Yes, and in our court papers, we put forth the cases of 5 families, and I'll tell you about one of them that was a case of 2 sisters who are now in their kind of high school ages, but have not really gone to school much in their lives. They are brought up by their grandmother, who is a pensioner, because their mother had passed away. So during this time, this grandmother who doesn't work was not able to get a grant to help feed these children. And because the children were not registered, they did not go to school either. So what happens is that when a parent has a blocked ID, the child does not get a birth certificate. And this is really the point that we were making in the court, that children cannot be affected by, this investigation into a parent. And it's important to highlight that it's an investigation. It's not a done deal. So these people are innocent as far as anybody's concerned. So the children are then for years, like you see with these 2 children, until they're 13, 14, not registered until we brought a court application. So not every person has a lawyer who can bring a court application for them. And like I said, even then it can take years.
Liesl, talk to us about the argument being made by Home Affairs here around the blocking of IDs. One of the explanations we've heard is that it's part of their efforts to deal with identity fraud.
Yes, and one must always separate the aim from the method, right? Mm-hmm. So it is obviously important to make sure that there's no fraud in the population register. But the Constitution tells us that you can't do that in just any way. You have to use the correct processes, which makes sure that you don't harm the human rights of people who shouldn't, who has not been finally convicted. And so that's the case here. The court said Home Affairs has not followed constitutional processes. And what we've seen in the cases that we're involved in is that there can be a mere suspicion and then an ID is blocked for 10 years. So the processes should line up with the Constitution, even if the aim is legitimate.
Gosh, 10 years. And obviously, if you've never experienced something of this nature, you cannot actually imagine what this must be like. I'm just reading through another case of a woman who has dual citizenship. Well, not dual citizenship, but she is a South African permanent resident. She fell victim to identity fraud a very, very long time ago. And she lived for more than a decade just in constant fear of being deported.
Yes, and this is the big issue, that even when people come forward, and they really do, there's no way for the department to give them feedback or to engage with them. So the department really needs to put in place a process where a person can make contact, provide proof, and the matter is resolved. But they don't have that at the moment. And like you say, even if you're the innocent party, somebody else has used your ID number, you and the other person gets blocked until, the investigation is dealt with. But like I say, there's no process to follow, and people are just left with no answers. And I'd like to also just reiterate that the Constitution requires Home Affairs to give written reasons and an opportunity to appeal, which is not the case right now. There's an email address that you can send your, proof of your documents through to, that we've done for many people, and we've just not received responses in months.
So even though there are meant to be channels, you say there's an email address, there's a way of contacting the department, but that is fruitless, essentially.
Absolutely. So people are trying, and we understand that the department is also, understaffed. But in the case of these children, for instance, you can just go ahead and register children while the investigation is ongoing. You don't need extra resources for that. So, and if in that case, the department is actually in contempt of the court order. And they can be held, the minister can be held responsible by the court for that contempt.
Right. Look, the department has made some progress since the court ruling, right? It was over 2.5 million people back when the court made this decision. By the end of July, we're sitting at just over 385,000 people. That's not to minimize the issue here. These 385,000 people are living with exactly the kinds of pressures, statelessness, questions around their dignity, their right to exist. This is still a very large number that the department needs to resolve.
Yes, and absolutely you're right. I think the court order has definitely resulted in some movement, and the department has been forced to make some progress, and we're very happy about that. And this is in terms of the adults. But now what we are worried about still is that the department has taken no steps to facilitate the birth registration of children of these people. So we're still there with the department that we need them to act on that very seriously. And I think that one of the most important things about these, 400,000 odd people is that they are mainly people who are affected already by poverty and whose lack of identity means that their poverty is entrenched, and that their children also get stuck in a cycle of poverty. And that's really, I think, the dignity that you're also referring to, is that there's no way out, no better life.
This is devastating. So when we talk about the 385,000 people who are still waiting for their IDs to be unblocked, for the markers to be removed, you say, yes, we've made progress in terms of how many people Home Affairs has been able to help from 2.5 million. So where are we sitting on birth registrations then?
So the court order said that the department is not allowed to refuse birth registration to these children. That's one. And we have clients who have continued to be refused. The second thing is that they were supposed to come up with a process whereby if a child of a blocked ID individual is going to be registered, there's supposed to be some kind of process that they should be able to follow. So the department has not implemented any of these steps. And we also have reports from people who have also been blocked since the order, which is also unlawful. So there are very serious outstanding issues that the department can still deal with.
Yeah. And as you say, the bulk of the people impacted here already heavily impacted by poverty. And so the cycle continues. For many of them, it's been many, many years of fighting this fight. But Liesl, when you talk about identity fraud, it means anyone is susceptible to this. Anyone.
Absolutely. And I was just interested in what your correspondent there said about these people being mainly senior citizens. And, it does speak to the fact that, under apartheid, people were not properly documented. And during the 94 years, when people were documented probably on a very rushed scale, there might have been holes in their proof. But most of these people have an identity or a passbook of a parent or proof that they were born in the country. And so it's really picking on those people, can you please come and reprove your citizenship in the country? And I think that's something that is out of touch with the history of our country. and really should not be so punitive when they were allowed to register, during that time.
It's a re-traumatizing. It's a reliving of the worst parts of our history. It's a reliving of the dehumanization that people experienced under apartheid.
Yes, I find it very similar. It's horrible.
Okay, so this feels like something that is reasonably easy to address, Liesl. We've talked about the fact that Home Affairs is understaffed, but come on, if this is 385,000 people, get a dedicated team and pay some attention to this issue.
You're absolutely right. And in the year or a year and a half since the court order, the department was not able to prove to the court that they'd taken any steps to resolve the individuals let me explain. The court needed the department to bring individual applications to court to keep people blocked who were blocked before. So the department was not able to show the court that they'd taken steps to start these court applications. So I'm not convinced that the department has done enough.
Neither am I. And I think it's an important conversation for us to bring the Home Affairs Minister onto the channel, get some answers, get these people some answers, try and get all of this resolved. There's just no overstating how dehumanizing this entire process is and the kind of trauma that these people go through just in trying to live their day-to-day lives, taking their children to school, hospital, opening a bank account. Liesl Muller, thanks for weighing in on this discussion. She's a senior attorney at the Center for Child Law.